Are you
Okay,
recording?
right.
Oh yeah.
Lovely. Right. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to what is a very wet and windy evening here in Yorkshire. If we have any Wi-Fi problems, I can guarantee they're probably going to be mine due to adverse weather conditions up here in the frozen north today. So I'm sorry about that, but I hope it all goes to plan. Right. Welcome to Stowe Talks. Tonight's session is about budgeting following divorce during the cost of living crisis that we currently have at the moment. I suspect we may have many new listeners with us tonight, so a big welcome to you. You may not know, I'm managing partner of the we are family law firm in England and Wales, and we've been around for quite a while actually. I won't list the years here. The purpose of these webinars is very much to share our knowledge and share the experts we meet as we go along. We cover a very wide range of family law matters in these webinars. We cover divorce, naturally, children matters, domestic abuse, surrogacy, men as victims of abuse, but tonight's slightly different. Tonight's guest is a lovely lady called Fanny Snaith. Now, Fanny is a certified money coach, and she's very highly regarded. She has a strong media presence. Her website is fannysnaith.com, and if you haven't seen it, go and have a look. You really need to check it out. Now, I like the way that Fanny talks about financial fog, and I like the way that she refers to money as being an emotionally charged problem. Now, no one knows that more than me and my team. We are divorce lawyers. Fanny identifies very correctly number one issue that I write about. And of course, we as a firm are very aware that money is the biggest issue the biggest issue there can be when a marriage or a relationship breaks down. Now, we've not had a money coach on this webinar before, and so I'm quite intrigued. Now, my day-to-day life, I talk to clients day in, day out about their spending, their standard of living, their expectations for life after divorce. But I'm not there to help them manage their finances after the deal has been approved by the court, after we've closed our file. I don't know how they're managing their spending with the settlement we've got them. And quite often my journey with a client that I might have worked with for possibly 2 or 3 years will end obviously when the financial deal has been implemented, and I don't know how they're managing afterwards. Now, this is where people like Fanny are particularly important, because she helps people to manage their finances who may well be managing their finances for the very first time in their life. They might be coming out of divorce, they might be dealing with other factors in life other than just learning how to budget solo. Fanny's very approachable, she's very down to earth, and she's got a huge amount of wisdom to share with us tonight. There is also possibly the interesting thing that I won't have to do quite so much legal advice, but by all means, let us have your questions as always. I'm always here for that. The format tonight is going to be Fanny's presentation and then questions. Just quickly, some housekeeping matters. We are recording tonight's session. For questions, please can you use the Q&A function, which is in the top corner of your screen. This is space, people questions, but feel free to share comments on the chat. Always be respectful of the space. When you get time, feedback. Webinars are driven by those we'd like to listen to. So let us know what you think. Let us know what top tips you've got for other topics this year. And now I'd like to welcome Fanny. Hi, Fanny.
Good evening. Good evening. It's lovely to be here. I have actually been on one of these before, haven't I? I think I have.
I think it was our breakup club. It's slightly different.
That was the breakup club. It was slightly different. Yeah. Okay. Just before we go on, I'm just going to fill in a couple of bits where you cut out, because you had a bit of an up moment, and it was, if you want to, please, I really want this to be an interactive session as much as we can. I'm going to rattle through a little bit first, and then there are going to be parts where there is so much to cover on this topic. I'm going to sort of like put a load of stuff up on the screen. And if you could ask any questions that you want to using the Q&A facility at the bottom, that's what it was just that one bit, Sarah, that just cut out while you were saying it. So I just say that again. Anyway, moving swiftly on so we can make the most of the time. I called this budgeting solo because I know, having come from, my mum was married and divorced 3 times. So I've been in, you know, around divorce and in divorced households. It can feel very, very lonely and a very, very difficult thing. But I first of all want to try and place it in the fact that you're not alone. There are lots of people who are starting to budget solo. So you're already a little part of a club, which is good. So that's okay. But let's launch straight in anyway and go straight to the elephant in the room, which is talking about money. Most of my webinars that I give, I go head on and start talking about, you know, with the elephant in the room, which is money, because generally we don't like talking about money. But I think in this particular area that we're in, there's been a lot of talking about money. And actually, for the last year or so in the news, it's been talked about a lot, but it is still generally viewed as one of the last taboos. But like I said, today is different. And everything we look at on the news is everybody's talking about the cost of living crisis, everybody's talking about prices going up, etc. It's definitely centre stage everywhere we look at the moment. And I even got to chip in on Sky News back in May, where they asked me to go on and talk about the interest rates. The Bank of England base rate now is 3.5%. It used to be about 0.5%. It used to be 0.25% for ages, which is like very, very low. But for instance, you know, going up to 3.5%, that's a huge rise. And Money Facts, I was looking at Money Facts today, and when we're talking about mortgages, the average rate on a 2-year fixed mortgage at the moment is 5.79%. Let me put that into perspective as to what that might mean for you if you have a mortgage or if mortgage reviews are coming up. Let's say you have £200,000 worth of mortgage at 2%. That's one of the mortgage rates it's the mortgage rate that I've got. So your monthly interest only payment would be £333. That's to a £200,000 mortgage. If it goes up to 5.79%, that means your mortgage payments are going to go up to £965 a month. That means you need to find an extra £632. If you think about how many mortgages there are across the country, all of us are sort of sitting here going, well, how are we going to do that? Because it's like, it's just for many, it's just not going to be sustainable. So everybody's looking to see what's going to happen. And if you're in the middle of a mortgage review at the moment, which you might well be, bearing in mind if houses have been splitting up, etc., it's going to be something that's going to be on your list of thinking, well, what on earth am I going to do? But in all honesty, the interest rates that we've had for the past 12 years or whatever have been ridiculously low. And this is probably a bit more normal, but that doesn't help, right? Anyway, let's moving swiftly on. I probably don't need to go into all the ways that money seems to be flying out of your purses and your wallets, because I'm sure you already know. Me, like you, I'm a middle income earner. I've enjoyed the luxury over the past few years. I've loved going to the theatre, Amazon parcels coming in, going out for coffees when I can, going for dinners. And my bank balance has been sort of okay. My debts have been manageable. And, you know, if I wasn't a money coach, I probably wouldn't have needed to look at my finances very much. And I'm finding this for a lot of people. It's not just people, you know, actually people who have been struggling with money for a long time are sometimes the best budgeters. It's us middle income earners, us people who have felt a general level of comfort that are now going, this is just not how it's supposed to be. This is not, you know, how it's been in the past. What do I do? So again, you're not alone. Things are changing. So everything's changed pretty much for everyone. And if you're now flying solo, as it were, that's may offer some extra challenges for you. But the thing is, wherever you are now and whatever the situation that any of us is in, we all need to take some action. It's not a nice thing to do. It's a must do. And for some of us, it raises all sorts of questions like, oh my God, what do I need to look at? I don't know what to do. Again, I'm feeling like I'm completely on my own. and just overwhelm. All right, so I'm hoping that today we're going to be approachable and that you can ask any question at all to help you move forward. So another thing to notice, and I think this is important, that the world and the country financially is topsy-turvy. It's weird. It's not following a pattern at the moment. So inflation has gone sky high to just over to, well, was over 10%, come down a little bit in the new year. Who cares? Does it notice? No, not really. Interest rates are shot up, which is going to affect you massively if you're a borrower. If you are a saver, who cares? It's still not high enough to give you a decent return. Fuel prices are coming down a little bit, but they're certainly not what they were before. Food prices are up, etc., etc. You know, and the House of Commons library data say that from November 21 to November 22, domestic gas prices have gone up by 129% and electricity up by 65%. So what next? What's going to happen? So it's interesting. And it's like you might have opinions and of the government, of the Tories, the war, the long-term damage of COVID. You might be angry, worried, sad, and all that kind of stuff. But whether or not those things matter to you, focusing on them isn't going to help you financially, because unfortunately we can't control any of those things. And I know from working with lots of people, we can waste a lot of time if we fall into sort of like the blame, the anger, that, you know, it's a trap. But honestly, how is that going to help you? How will that help you? So the thing is, wherever you are, whatever situation you're in, taking that action is going to be brilliant, because in my experience, with the right approach, we can all be wonderful money managers, unless we've got things going on, you know, where we have difficulties, which actually stops us doing that. But generally, we can all learn to be wonderful money managers, and I'm here to help you to do that. Quick introduction to me, Fanny Snaith, certified money coach. I've been working with people now since 2015. Over about 3,000 people I've helped along the way. So individuals, students, clients, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people have said what I do with them is life-changing. Do private coaching, couples coaching, have some different coaching programs, which I won't bother going into now. But guess what? I didn't pop out of the womb like that. I really didn't. I didn't come out being this amazing money manager. I still struggle with it. And sometimes I'm like, still I go, but it's just the way that it is. I've had my own difficulties. The way I think and feel about money has had some really, really, really strong challenges along the way. But I've developed my own money management system called money mapping, which I'm going to share with you tonight. And I've built like a net worth of over £1 million from working part-time at home by just like focusing on it. I own a bit of property. I've got a self-managed portfolio of funds, and yeah, I'm sort of doing all right, but it's like it's having that approach to money, which is really important. And that's something I want to express on you, that if we can approach our finances in a positive way, it will give us the confidence to do so many other things in life, you know, just to build our self-esteem, etc. So that one thing of money, if we can get that sorted, it links on to so many other things. But I do understand how our mindset around it is so important, which is why I'm also training to become a therapist this year. And these things really need to stop popping up. There, hopefully they will now. Sorry about that. Right. So I've been coaching people focusing on money, like I said, for 7 years. And I know from my experience that there are many reasons that people don't manage their money, but not once as the reason being because somebody wants to be poor. Okay, so you're always managing money is not one of the most sexy tasks, especially when we talk about budgets and bank accounts and bank statements. Pretty off-putting words, all beginning with B, just like the word boring. So we try and avoid that. In fact, when I started out my journey as a money coach, I focused on teaching people the practical side of money. And people would come to see me, managers people being paid a good amount of money, and I'd sit down, teach them how to do practical finance, and they would either vomit choose to go and clean the loo, or just gaze out of the window or burst into tears. So it struck me that it's not their ability, because they're running budgets of millions of pounds at work. It's not their ability, it's their mindset. It's how they think and how they feel. So if you're sitting at home right now thinking, I hate money, I don't want to have anything to do with it, I've just split up, or I've just gone through a divorce and everything's a nightmare, and I don't want to do it, and it all feels hopeless, I understand, but changing that approach, step one, is going to take you pretty much halfway there. I promise you, it's going to take you halfway there, because your approach is the really big thing. So one of the things that happened for me, I wanted to become a millionaire because I didn't want to be broke. My family, I came from a wealthy family. We lost all our money early when I was about 10 years old. And I wanted to become wealthy through a fear, like an away from motivation. When I got there, I was really miserable. And that's when I decided that I needed to try and change the approach of managing finances and breathe some life into it, for God's sake. Breathe some life into it so that we can do it in a bit more of a fun way. So I devised what we called the financial adventure. And this is what it roughly looks like. This is the different approach, and this is what we're going to approach tonight with. So let's think of our financial life as an adventure. Now, I'm not talking Dora the Explorer, right, with a little backpack on her back. Don't know if you know Dora the Explorer. I am probably talking a bit more about Indiana Jones. And yes, you might find that you're running down a corridor with a fireball chasing you, and then a nest of vipers at the end that you have to dive into. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be smooth running all the way. However, Indy always turned out all right, and he always got the girl, right? He might have been sweaty and dirty, but he got there, and it was always a great ending. So approaching our finances with curiosity and courage is the first step to change. So this financial adventure, we think about it, the money fills our pockets, but adventure fills our soul. It's about the learning. It's about moving forward. So if we're going to go on an adventure, we need 4 things. We need a map, which is going to be our spending plan, or what people call a budget. A compass. So once we've got our map, we need to know that we are on track, that we're actually, there's no point having a map if you don't follow it, right? Because we can all do that. Then you need to have a destination, think about where you want to get to. And right now, it might be, I just want to get through the end of the month without getting into too much debt. I understand that, but you never know. You might be in a position where you can do a bit more than that, and start thinking about financial planning and, you know, what things are going to look like in 20, 30 years time. I don't know, but it doesn't matter where you are. We start with where we are with what we've got. But the most important thing is you need to be fit and motivated, which means you've got to want to go. You've got to want to go on the challenge, as it were, go on the adventure. So just briefly, before we get down to nuts and bolts, thinking about our relationship with money, we're all different. And money can be viewed in very, very many different ways. It can be a good servant or a sadistic master. Have you noticed how the way you feel about money changes depending on how much money you have? Right? I know that when I don't have much money, it's like, oh, and when I've got money, it's like, yeah, it's all really good. So that gives you an indication as to our relationship with money, right? And actually how much money can affect us in life. And one of the things that we always say as money coaches, certified money coaches, is that money tends to magnify who we are. I mean, honestly, if you're an arsehole, excuse my French on this lovely webinar, if you're an arsehole and somebody gives you a load of money, you're just going to become a bigger arsehole, very likely. If you're a really nice person and you get lots of money, you're going to probably be a really nice, you know, much nicer, you know, even more nicer person. But you thinking about how money rules us is very, very interesting. So understanding our relationship with money is key. Money is generally not the problem. It's our feelings and beliefs around the exchange of it, giving it, taking it, giving it, taking it. How we experience money in our early life is key. The relationship that we have with our parents is key. If you had a loving, nurturing relationship with your parents, it's probably going to work out better for you than if you didn't. If you had parents that were giving you all sorts of messages like, we can't afford it, people like us don't get rich, rich people are greedy, those things stick. You can't help it, right? They're just part of our reality tunnels. And of all of our past memories, we use those as references for activities and events in the future. So we can't help it. We just need to notice it and just allow it to happen, and then we can start working on it. And the reason I'm telling you this is because if I start going through this and you're starting to feel huge amount of resistance, that's your first step. You can go, isn't that interesting? Rather than going, I'm just going to get under the table and cry. So we go, isn't that interesting? That's the way forward. Okie dokie. We're also going to have a money identity. So our identity with money, which comes from our relationship with money and our money story, the story of our money going through childhood, and our identity when it comes to money, or like, oh, I was never supposed to be rich, I am whatever it is when it comes to money, is really important. There's a fantastic book that I recommend everybody to read called Psycho-Cybernetics. Catchy title, I know, but it really is a wonderful book. And it's actually written by a plastic surgeon who did a lot of work on identity, and he came up with the most amazing phrase, which is this: you can never outperform your own self-image. So if you have a self-image of your thing that you're a loser, you're a failure, you're never going to work it out, you're never going to be good with money, it's always going to slip through your fingers, it's always going to do this, it's always going to do that, chances are it will. So we need to be careful with how we think, and we are capable of changing our thoughts, but that's not what this webinar is all about. 5 common beliefs that will hold you back. Money will make me happy. Personally, I know that it doesn't. There's also been plenty of studies to show that actually in America, it's about 75, 80, it's probably gone up to about $90,000 now with inflation. Once you get paid over about $90,000, happiness doesn't change. In fact, at one point it goes down. If I work hard, I'll make more. That's not true, because care workers work really hard and they don't get paid a lot of money. I don't make enough to save money. That's not true. You can take a jam jar and put a sticker on the outside saying savings and put a penny in there once a week, once a month, once a year, and you are actually effectively a saver. But using that kind of language is going to hold you back, because you can be a saver. If I can afford the payment, taking debt on is okay. That's not true, because you need to be able to look ahead and look at all the payments, rather than thinking, say, for instance, Klarna is something that a lot of people are going to at the moment, these buy now, pay later things. They go, well, that's okay. So that's like 3 payments. That's 3 payments of £5. That's okay. I can afford to do that. But then they get another Klarna, they get another one and another one and another one. And all of a sudden, you've got a whole heap of payments that go through that isn't really affordable. I'm seeing people pay thousands of pounds, or over £1,000 in repayments to credit cards at the moment, and a lot of that is interest, and it is like the grip of death on people's faith. So that's not true. Money is the root of all evil. No, it isn't. Money actually the love of money is the root of all evil, which is the real thing. And it isn't. Money can do wonderful things in the world if we have wonderful feelings behind it. And dirty money, filthy rich, that's partially true, because money is dirty because people touch it all the time, but digital money isn't, and the rich aren't filthy. There are some lovely rich people, and there are some horrible rich people, and there are some lovely poor people, and there are some horrible poor people. So we just think about that. Right, so today, what do we do with money? There's 2 things the main things that money is all about in our financial adventure. To pull it down to 2, what we do with it, and how we think and feel about it. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on what we do with it. All right, so pens and paper at the ready. I'm going to take you through this. Look at that slide. It took me hours to create that. Fanny Snaith's money management system, the money management system that works. I've used this myself, and I've used it with pretty much every client, online programs, etc. And it works. It's different from other things that you will have seen. I don't know why, because I can't understand why everybody doesn't do it, but still. First thing to do if you're starting to budget solo is to create a money space. Now, I don't care what that is. I don't care if it's a box. I don't care if it's a room, just somewhere which is the go-to space for all your finances. Because there is nothing worse than thinking, right, I'm going to do something with money. Now, where's that? Where's this? Where's that? Where's this? Just get it all together, first of all. That's the first step to making it easy. Next, get a notebook. I don't know about you, but I'm a lady of a certain age and I forget things all the time. So when I'm phoning up PlusNet to try and negotiate a new broadband deal, if I don't write it down, about 10 minutes later, I will have forgotten it. You know, they're going to come back, they're going to send me an email, then my direct debit's going to change, and then that's going to change all that. Start writing financial things down in a notebook. And you can use a notebook for two things. One, to write down practical things, but also to write down how you feel, which is going to help your relationship with money. One of the things that I encourage my clients to do is to use the right-hand side for physical things that you do, and then try and fill up the left-hand side on how you feel. Use that one, two-sided things, because it's really important to notice your feelings, like I said. If you're going to print things out, get a full folder and dividers and nice pens and all that kind of stuff, so that you can put bank statements and fold them. It sounds really, really silly, but when you're filing your bank statements, if that's what you're going to do, or your gas bills or your council tax bills, whatever, put the most recent one on the top. I know that sounds totally ridiculous, but it saves doing all of this. You've always got the one at the top. We want to try and make, if managing your money feels a bit like, we want to make it as easy, systematic, and simple as possible. So be that. Next is go around the place that you live and be the hunter-gatherer. Look behind radiators, under the dog's bed, under the coffee cups, and get all your financial papers together and shove them in that box. Just get them in one place. And you go, yes. Celebrate your win. Give yourself a high five. Anybody read The High Five Habit by Mel Robbins? Wonderful. Loved it. I've just finished it. So funny. I listened to it on Audible. It's really good. Then the next thing you want to do, if you've got a computer or a phone, however you receive things, and you are, because you're going to have stuff online, right? People are going to send you, here's your invoice for your garden rake that you just ordered, right? You want to, if you want to save that, because just in case handle snaps and you want to take it back in 6 weeks' time, just create a folder on your PC and just shove it in there. Again, have a financial space on your computer. Don't have to go searching through emails that takes 15 minutes, which then allows you to distract. You go, oh yeah, I forgot about that film. I could watch that. Just again, help it so you can keep focus. And a folder for, you know, your spreadsheets, your anything. Just keep it, know where it is. Okay, that's the next. That's the first thing. Secondly, this is it step by step. We're not talking about our budget now, we're talking about a money map. This is a money map where we're going to give every single pound a purpose. One of my pet hates is murky pots. We don't have murky pots of money, because murky pots of money have no intention, and so therefore they tend to disappear. They leak, or they sit there and they get stagnant. So what we want to do with whatever we've got financially, we want to keep it go. We want to keep it moving, keep it flowing, stir it up, and use it like every pound that you have is like an employee, right? You want to have it all working for you. So step by step, roughly what we're talking about, and I know you've heard this probably a million times before, jot down all your resources of income, salary, benefits, other income, eBay sales, whatever it is, walking people's dogs, however. Then we're going to do expenses and savings. We're going to categorize them. We're going to use our bank statements to help us. And we're going to use an app that's going to help us as well. It's a brilliant app, which I'm going to recommend to you. We're going to take the expenses from the income. And the sum, the magic sum that we want to do is income minus expenses minus savings minus debt equals 0. Not £1, not minus £1. We want it to equal 0. It's called zero budgeting, funnily enough, but we're not using the budgeting word. We'll call it zero mapping. So let's get on to it. Step 1, let's think about our money for a minute and think about how it flows and how we use it. Seems pretty obvious. that we have money coming in, and then we can either spend it, save it, lend it, debt it, pay it off debts, or give it away. There's not a lot else we can do with it, really. That's good. And then we're going to give every pound a purpose, measured spending, no waste. And you're going to end up with a lovely money map, which is going to give you a place to go, knowing that you have the confidence and the clarity that you need to be a wonderful money magician, money manager. Yes. How do we do that? Well, if you start to think about all the things that you spend your money on and just start writing them down on a list, that's really hard. Because how are you going to remember everything? You could sort of go through all your bank statements and start doing things, all that kind of stuff. It is really, really difficult to try and remember everything. So let's start with a system. Now, first of all, you're probably moving into a new way of life. So going back over 12 months worth of bank statements, you might think pointless, right? Because everything's different. A lot of people say to me, I can't do this at the moment because all things are changing. You know, I'm going to be in a new house and I'm moving to this and that's going to be different and they're not going to be there and she's going to be going to this club and all that. It doesn't matter. We always start where we are with what we've got. The reason I ask people to look at 12 months worth of bank statements is so you can just remember everything. Because the thing is, if you look at 6 months, January to June, let's say, last year, what happened to Christmas? And the number of people that get to December and go, oh, it's December, isn't it? Christmas, forgotten about that. And we need, with our money mapping system, we need to remember Christmas in January. I mean, this is particularly easy because we're in January, so that's Christmas. But what about summer holiday? Let's say you went in May and you look back 6 months, you might forget your summer holiday, right? Okay, so what we do is we put things into categories. These are just some example categories. But if you start thinking about, okay, how am I going to start organizing these? A bit like kitchen cupboards. What do you want to put in each kitchen cupboard? We're talking about giving money boundaries. We're putting money into pots. Like I said, we don't want any murky pots. We want to know exactly what's in every single pot. So think about categories that will suit you. It's not a cookie cutter approach. This is not, don't like think, oh my God, food and drink. You don't have to do that. Feel free to take pictures of the screen if you would like to. So we get categories and then we work out what we spend per month on each one of those items in each one of those categories. So for instance, if you were to think about Christmas, that would probably be quite easy right now because you can see what you spent on Christmas last year, and divide it by 12. And then we know how much money we would like to be setting aside every month for that. Might not be possible moving forward, but it's a benchmark, just a flag in the sand. You can change it later. So we just do that first of all. That's step 2. So we looked at our money flow, thinking about that. Now step 2, put it into categories. Step 3 is we're now, instead of looking about what we spend our money on, we're going to think about how we spend our money, right? So this, I'm going to say 3 pots, 3 bank accounts. For many people, it will be 3 bank accounts. However, for those people who are into challenger banking, like Starling or Monzo, it becomes even easier because you can start taking advantage of the spaces that are offered around the current account. So for instance, with Starling, which is my preferred, you have the main current account, and then you can create up to, I think it's 100 spaces. So I could create a space which says Christmas, and I could set an automatic little transfer from the main current account over to the Christmas pot, and it could be sitting there until December and not show on my everyday balance. And boom, I've got almost like a separate bank account, and I could almost have like 100 of those. Fantastic. Let me show you how this works. So we're thinking about how we spend our money. We've got everyday spending, automated spending, and sometimes spending. So everyday spending is going to be things like foods, groceries, coffees out, all that kind of stuff. Money that you need to just be there when you go into a shop, go boop, boop. Like it's going to be in the central pot, but it's not going to be murky because money is going to be moving in and out of it sort of reasonably quickly. What we don't want to do is we don't want to put money for groceries somewhere else, because if not, you're going to think, oh, I'm going to get the groceries. We just want it to be available to you, but you're going to have a rough idea how much you're going to be spending on groceries, but you're not going to know to the penny. And you're also probably going to spend that money over a number of different visits to the supermarket. So we just have an everyday spending space so we can have money available to us. Then we have what's called automated spending. And we want to try and put as much into the automated spending as we possibly can. So rent, mortgage, gas, electricity, council tax, water, everything that could be set up with a direct debit or a standing order, should you be in a position to do so, do it, because it makes it easy. Subscriptions would also be included in this. Subscriptions can be pretty sneaky, especially as we tend to set them up often on our credit cards and we think, oh yeah, we didn't, but we need to remember those as well. So that's our automated spending. So if you top those up, you're going to know exactly how much you spend on direct debit, standing orders and subscriptions every month. And then we have sometimes spending, which are things like Christmas, holidays, birthdays. What else might there be? There might be the car insurance if you pay it annually. By the way, it's always cheaper to pay it annually if you can. What else might we do? Servicing the car, things like that. You don't do that every month, do you? So it would be nice to set. So all those things that we want to set money aside to live our financial lives on the front foot, yeah, in front of that fireball, so that when you go to have your car service, the money is sitting there, if you can. So let's go back to step 2 for a minute. That's what it looked like. And then let's show how these exact things would be divided into pots, look. And obviously it's all personal choice, but it might look something like that. Then we want to add into it our savings and our debts. And we want to automate those as much as possible. So there's so much to say about credit card debt and how we cope with that. I'm going to mention a bit of it today, and if people ask me questions about it specifically, I'll answer it. But it's a really massive topic. But generally, the idea is to try and stabilize the debt. So you pay exactly the same every month, and you do that until the whole lot is paid off. And we try and budget, do a money map outside of that debt so that you know that everything is covered. But I'll be honest with you, it's slightly a different webinar because it's quite a big topic. And also savings. Everybody's a saver, even if it's a penny a year. We all call ourselves savers as of today. Never want to hear it again. You say, I can't afford to save. Yes, you can. A penny a year, you're a saver. Okay. So we're going to make each pot a different bank account or spaces on Challenger banks. They are safe containers for your money. We split it up. It makes it easier. In the olden days, people used to have pots on the mantelpiece. So they put, 15 and 6 in for the gas bill. They put this amount in for Christmas. And, you'd go and you'd take a little bit of cash out of the pots. And then if they didn't have enough money, they do juggling with the pots. And this is exactly what we're doing here, only we all tend to work digitally. But you can do money on the mantelpiece in pots if you want to. They even used to make special containers that you could do it in with little slots. Just showing my age now. So the reason we do this, as soon as you get paid or as money comes into your bank account, you separate the money into the pots. And the reason we do that is because you'll have your bills covered, you're saving for the sometimes spends, and you'll have the money there for the things that you need now. Now, this is taking into account that everybody's got enough money to live on, right? And I'm not assuming that, but I have to start from somewhere, okay? So just a quick recap. This is basically the system. Take a photograph of this. This gives you all of it in one go. 1, everyday spending. 2, automated spending. 3, sometimes spending. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, if you were to draw it out on a piece of paper, it might look something like this. So this is the bills category, and I've written down a number of things here. This is my own little thing, and then I work out how much each bit is per month, and then I would copy that over into whether it's a sometimes and an automated and an everyday spend. So just roughly to show you how you might lay it out when you're drawing it out. I'll talk about how you can get hold of a money map from me later. So your tools for managing your money are they going to come up? I tend to use Starling Bank. And then now I want to introduce you to an app that is just absolutely fantastic. It's free of charge. Anybody can use it. And I find it one of the most helpful things. And it is takes the place of your compass, and it's called Money Dashboard. You can get it free either with Apple or with Android, and it's super special. And if you have got a number of different bank accounts, you put everything in together so that all the transactions just get listed by date, and you can then tag them in the categories that you decide that you set up, and they actually give you a number of categories to start off with. So I would stick with that first. It also is intuitive. So for instance, if you go to Sally's dog grooming salon, and it first of all comes up on Money Dashboard as transport because it doesn't know what it is, you can change it to pets or whatever, or whichever category you want to, and then it will remember to do that going on. So, and if you pump your bank details into it, and it's all safe, it's with open banking, so it's as safe as online banking, it will probably load all of your transactions for the last year, which is going to be a massive help for you when looking at how you've spent your money in the last year, to look forward on how to budget, to map going forward to 2023. Obviously, when you look at it, you might have questions, etc. You can contact me, or but have a play with it. Have a play with it. The reason I put spending tracker on the end here is because if you use cash, which personally I don't anymore, when I used to, we still need to track cash. We need to know what we're spending cash on. Like, for instance, if you were saying, okay, on my money back, I've got £200 on and £200 in cash, we can't just have cash going out and not knowing where it's going. That's a proper murky pot. So we would use this app, and it looks like this. This is the icon, imaginatively called spending tracker. And that will help you tap in your cash purchases. But I'm sort of sensing that people generally don't use cash. Now we're getting on to where I want some help from you. But I was going to say, first of all, does anybody have any questions so far?
Sorry to interrupt, Fanny. We've just had a couple of questions in the chat, actually. I just thought it's probably a good time to break, because it's something that we've just been discussing. So the first one was, can you explain the term challenger bank, please?
Yes, a challenger bank is they're new banks. They're challenging the high street banks. They don't have branches, essentially. They're digital banks. They have customer service departments, but they don't have branches. So for instance, if you get given a check with Starling, you take a photograph of it, you send the photograph to Starling, they tell you when they've received it, and then say you are now free to rip up the check and put it in the bin. How scary is that?
Yeah, it sounds scary.
But that's what yeah.
And then there was a couple of questions just around the Money Dashboard app. Is it free for all features, or is it like Emma, where you have to pay to use the premium features?
It is free for all features. It's owned by ClearScore, which is one of the credit reference agencies. They are collecting data. It's not personal, but it is free, but it's not. There isn't a paid version.
That's great, thank you. There is a couple of other questions, but I think they'll probably fit better if we cover them off at the end, because they're a bit more detailed.
Yeah. Now, these slides here, right, paying down debt, I have put it like this because, you know what, death by PowerPoint and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go through it all now, but I want you to if you want to, sorry, I don't want you to, I invite you to take a photograph of it and then think about what you need help with. So what we're basically looking at for paying down debt, and one of the questions was, is it better to pay off debt? They didn't say than whatever, so they just said, is it better to pay off debt? But that was one of the questions. Look, it depends. I had somebody ask me that question yesterday. So they bought a car for, their bill was £12,000. It was on HP. Of that £12,000, £4,000 was interest. And they wanted to know, they were confused as to whether they should pay that off or put the money or not, you know, what do I do? Do I invest or do I pay the debt off? Depends. So I said to him, well, if you pay it off early, do you get any money off? And they've said, no, I can pay in full, and I've paid half of it so far. I can pay full and final settlement of £6,000 now. And I go, well, in that case, what's the point of paying it off early? It's of no benefit to you whatsoever. However, if they'd said, we'll accept £8,000 if you pay us off now, you can just pay us 2 instead of 6. Let's do it, right? So is it better to pay off debt? If you've got a credit card where you're paying 26% interest, which is quite normal now, and you've got £2,000 sitting in a savings account, and you've got other money that is that is there as a buffer, as it were. If you've got spare cash sitting around, yes, I would probably use that to pay off the credit card because you're paying such an enormous amount of interest. However, we always want to have a POM fund, which is a peace of mind fund. And that ideally, and I know that this is very difficult for many people now, most people now, ideally, we want to have an account with about 6 months absolute total necessity money set aside. So the whatever it is per month for the mortgage, the gas, the electricity, the council tax, the water, basically all those things to keep your roof over your head. We're not including Domino's pizzas. We're not including Sky Sports. We're not including the top smartphone, but we're talking things that actually will keep the wheels turning, to try and keep that in liquid cash aside. So I wouldn't go using that. But, some of these credit cards that are charging enormous amounts of interest now, try and get those paid down as much as you can. As you see down here, there's a little pinky thing here. And this is a link to a free spreadsheet called a Snowball Debt Destroyer. And if you have debts in there, you can pop them in and how much you pay every month. It's got all the instructions with it. And it's a really interesting way that you can play with, well, if I pay this much off, if I pay that one first or this one first, etc. But again, general rule of thumb, try to get things on 0% interest. Try to cut the interest payments down as much as you can. Try and get them to reduce the interest as much as possible. Don't just jump into bed with an IVA if you're really struggling. Consider it and maybe have a conversation with me first, and I will help you with that before you jump into bed with an IVA. And use this and take the credit card and put it in a freezer and don't use it anymore. And also don't pay the minimum payment, but I can show you that afterwards if we've got time. But that, again, that's not this one. Always pay a little bit more than the minimum payment, because they work out the algorithm so that paying the minimum payment means you pay the most interest. Whereas if you only have to pay even a slight amount above it, and it can change the picture quite considerably. Right, money saving essentials. And when I say money saving, I'm not necessarily putting money into savings accounts. I'm talking about keeping your costs down, etc. So have a money map. Again, this is death by PowerPoint, but it's meant so you can take a photograph of it. Have a money map. Go through all your direct debits, your subscriptions and standing orders and all that kind of stuff. I didn't put standing orders there, which is a bit silly, and cancel them. The one I've had that was the most interesting or the most painful was a lady paying, and she was a divorcee as well, a lady paying £175 a year to AA for a car that she'd never even owned. Right, so we all fall for it every now and again. Save water, switch off, unplug. I know you know that. Turn the heating down a degree. Switch energy supply. That's not possible right now. You can't do that anymore. So we're just sort of pretty much stuck with what we've got. And if you are going with having a look to switch, the amount of saving at the minute is pennies. Grocery shop with care. Don't ever go shopping hungry. Be careful of bog off products. Buy one, get one free. They're not always the best. Be careful with bulk buying. Make sure you worked it out and see if it works with your budget first. Sometimes it can be good, but this is one of the things that pushes up inflation, where people go and bulk buy things because they think the price is going to go up. Doesn't always work, right? Meal plan. One of the best ways I have found to save money is to plan meals. It can be a complete pain in the neck, but if you have young children especially, it's a really, really amazingly money saving idea. So you just get a chart, write what you're going to have for each of the 7 days, and then buy with that. Yes, I know that we like to have the freedom that what you decided to eat last Sunday for next Thursday, you don't fancy that. But look, sometimes we've got to make sacrifices, right? And meal planning is a really good way to just not have your own mini supermarket in the kitchen. Check your bank statements weekly. Get close to your numbers. Start to get to know and love your money. Fall in love with your money as much as you possibly can. Just be aware of what's going through. It takes away shock. It takes away surprises. And also then enables you to go, actually, do you know what? I achieved this. This is amazing. I'm going to go ahead and do more of that. Use the budgeting app, which is like Money Dashboard. Save money on apps and get cash back. Check out Top Cashback and Quidco. They're the two biggest cashback apps. I would urge that you don't rely on them, but the way that they work is you go online or you go on your phone or something and you've got it set up and it goes, oh, actually, if you link via Quidco, you can get 6.75% returned on this. And what they do is they then, if it all works, you get money put in a little pot and then you can draw down money from Quidco or Top Cashback. Can be fantastic, but we don't rely on it, and we don't buy something because it's got a bit of a cashback, because like I said, we can't rely on it. We don't buy things in the sale that we wouldn't have bought before just because there's money off. We've got to genuinely need those things and want those things and be able to afford those things. I think that makes sense. And use vouchers. I know it all seems a little bit sort of like using vouchers and, you know, money saving expert, etc. I do love Martin Lewis, but, you know, it tends to go a little bit into scarcity. But if things are tight, right? And that's what we have to do. Here are some more things. Again, get your camera out, reassess your phone, your broadband, and your TV package. There's all sorts of deals out there. Oh, I've already got that one already, so I've repeated that one. Check your benefits. You may be entitled to benefits. The number of people that I've known that haven't actually been claiming child benefit, especially for those of you who have for divorce, to people who've been through divorce. If you're now on your own, you could well be eligible to get child benefit, whereby you might not have been before. But there are benefits calculators online where you can go in and you can just punch stuff in and it'll tell you what you're able to get. Next thing I found that's been really useful for me is a petrol prices app. It's called the Petrol Prices app, and it's incredible. I never realised. So petrol in the garage near me can be sometimes 9p a litre more expensive than the one down the road. What's that? Why is that allowed? Even with two branches of Sainsbury's. Crazy. So that's a good thing to do. Run the car efficiently, keep the tyres pumped up, don't accelerate too quickly, and keep the weight down. Don't pay for your credit report. Again, £15 a month to get their Experian credit report. What for? You don't need it. You don't need to spend that money. You can have a look at your credit report regularly. You don't always need to go all the way down to the root of it every month. If you want to see a full credit report, go on to something like Equifax, sign up for the trial period, download the report, and then cancel it straight away. Sorry, but they're charging money for old rope. I don't know what they're charging money for. I'm not saying don't look at your credit report, though. You do need to. It's still important. Review your mortgage early. You can look at mortgages up to 180 days before the time is up, but just start thinking about it now. Think about what it's going to go up to, very likely, and just keep it in the back of your mind. Live your financial life on the front foot and just get in there early. Oh, there was something else I was going to say then. Can't remember. It'll come back. Tax relief. If you have accountants, talk about tax relief. I'm not going to go into it here. One, because I'm not an expert, but secondly, it's just something to think about. And again, this is a photograph slide. Talking again about the minimum payment trap. I'm rattling on a bit because I'm noticing the time. Minimum payment trap. Always pay a little bit more than the minimum payment if you can't pay the whole lot off. Essentially, you want to pay the whole lot off on your credit card because it will cost you a fortune if not, unless you're on 0%. But the minimum payment trap is painful. Check your council tax band. Many people are in the wrong council tax band. Check it. Google, am I in the right council tax band? And there'll be all sorts of information that will come up that will show you how to do that. Review your buildings and contents insurance. I see a lot of people bills, and quite a lot of people are paying a lot of money, like 800-900 quid for contents insurance. And I'm thinking, and yet they're only insuring about the same amount as I am, and I'm paying 144. So review it, ask your friends what they're paying, ask your colleagues what they're paying, maybe have a little thing in the office like, let's work out, because this is the one area where I see that a lot of people are paying lots of different things. Very, very varied amounts. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Are you paying a fee to your bank every month for something like breakdown cover, travel insurance, and something else? That's another thing to review, because banks, it never usually ends up being a good deal, in my experience. So maybe have a look at that. The other one is, are you paying insurance for your white goods, your fridge, your freezer, your telly? I was talking to a guy yesterday, he's paying £17 a month for his washing machine, his fridge and his telly. He's paid that for 3 years, so that's over 600 quid. He's had the washing machine fixed once, which is good, but he could have bought a new washing machine for that. The thing is, every year it goes up, and you sort of get trapped into it because you think, well, I've paid all that money, so I might as well keep up with it. Why don't you take the same amount of money and just put it in a savings account, so that should something go wrong with it, you've got money there? I know it's a little bit of a risk, and I know that if you cancel it and then next month all 3 break down, you'll be going, that Fanny Snaith. So you do have to make your own decision on it, but it's more money that's going out that you really need. So that was the minimum payment trap, but I'm not going to show you that, but it's just showing you how much money. Take a photograph. This is only on 17.9. Interest rates have gone up massively, but it's just huge amounts of interest. I'm not going to do all this money types thing, but there is a money type quiz on my website where you can sort of find out how your behavior around money is serving you, and that we've basically all got these 8 money types within us. It's a fun little quiz that you can do, and it's knowing which ones are the driver of your financial life. You can take the money type quiz here, www.fannysnaith.com. Let me skip this slide because we haven't got time. But I also wanted to show you, I've got a money mapping course, which is completely DIY. You do it on your own. You get given tutorial videos. You get given all of the spreadsheets, the one spreadsheet that you'll need for managing your money. You won't need anything else apart from Money Dashboard. They're designed to work together. It's really good. And usually the price is £88 for the course, but a special offer for you guys until Sunday, if you would like it, is you can have it for £70. And if you would like it, you can get it using this link here. So there we go. How are we doing for questions? I'm sorry that was a bit of a rattle through, but there's just so much to say.
No, that was great, Fanny. That was brilliant. I've actually made my own notes this end here. I seem to have unbelievably bad Wi-Fi at the moment, so I'm not sure whether Kate should be doing questions or whether I should, given that you might lose me. Kate, do you have any preference?
If you want to go ahead, and then if you drop out, I'll take over.
Well, hang on. Could you want me anonymous? Would you like me to have a look at the questions?
Yeah.
Because I can say, well, I actually feel confident with managing my money, and I'm extremely frugal, careful in spending. I have had a financial advisor to ensure I'm set up for the future, and I have insurances for income for me and my children should anything happen to me. My issue is how to manage the extreme cost, depth of the legal process with a narcissist who is dragging out the process, blocking remortgaging to better deals, not paying anything for the children, etc. What suggestions do you have for borrowing at a decent rate or trying to pay off the debt already around 20k and set to double by the end of the year? Wow, that is just such a huge question for me. for you to ask and for me to answer in here. The answer is, I'm going to say, I don't know, because I don't know enough about your situation. One thing I would say though, and it sounds like you already are, and this is going to be a bit of a high five to you, is hold on to your power. Keep confident, keep courageous, and keep curious. I can't answer this question now, it's too long, but if you want to have a chat with me, you can contact me via my website, and I'd be happy to have a 30-minute chat with you. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but I don't know how to approach that right now.
No, that's great. There's also a narcissist friend of ours, or rather a friend of ours who deals with narcissism, who might be able to help, a lady called Sapria McKenna, who gives top tips as to how to deal with a narcissist, admittedly on a day-to-day basis in terms of co-parenting, if you're divorcing or separating from them, things like that. She won't necessarily be able to deal with the financial elements that perhaps Fanny will be able to, but she might be one to have a look at as well.
Well, maybe have a chat with both of us.
Yes.
You know, more knowledge you can get, the better. Right?
Yes, tricky on that one.
The other thing is, this may sound silly and it might not be something that you want to do, but I know that there are quite a few groups out there that specifically talk about this. I know that what we want to do is we don't want to get into one of those social media groups where it becomes a pity party, but sometimes they can be quite empowering. You just have to be careful and don't get dragged into things that you don't want to if you're already feeling confident. That was the only thing I would say, but sometimes they can be useful, but I'm happy to chat. Is there any way that a joint mortgage holder can be made to pay his share of the mortgage when they are currently refusing to do so? I don't think so. You might know better, Sarah.
It's going to depend where you are in terms of the separation / divorce breakdown. Possibly give us a bit of a call if you are ending a relationship or in the death throes of a relationship and someone's playing silly buggers. I'll happily talk you through that. That's not a problem. If you're in a happy relationship and still somebody's not paying, then I'd look at your relationship. Yeah. You enter into a joint mortgage to trust because you've jointly decided to take on a mortgage. If they're not now paying, but you want the relationship to continue, then there's a problem there.
Nice, I like that.
Sorry, direct.
That's good. No, that's good, because I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can make anybody pay anything. I mean, I know somebody who spent a lot of money on solicitors' fees to get an agreement for maintenance, and then in order not to pay, he decided to give up his job, so he wasn't working anymore, and so it was handed over to the CSA, and he still didn't pay. So the whole thing was a waste of money. But that's not necessarily how it's going to go for everybody. It's how you approach it and how you move forward with it. Is Money Dashboard similar to Emma? Similar but different. Play with it. It's free. Have a look and see. Also, if you look at a website called moneytothemasses.com, they do comparisons of things like Emma and Money Dashboard, so you can look up both and decide what the pros and cons are for you. Moneytothemasses.com is an excellent website, along with moneysavingexperts.com. No, you don't have to pay for premium features. Can someone with an IVA get a mortgage after they've paid it off? How long will it take to clear their credit rating? If you've finished after they paid it off, the IVA, you will be able to get another mortgage eventually, but it's going to depend on your circumstances and usually building up your credit score. Again, and I hate doing this because it doesn't help you at all, the goalposts seem to be moving every day when it comes to credit scores and credit ratings. There's different things that mean everything. My credit score dropped by about 20 points overnight. I have no idea why. And then all of a sudden they've been going up again. What they can do is behind the scenes, they decide what's affordability. And if the cost of living crisis means that people have less affordability, then sometimes our credit scores are going down. So it's an open market at the moment, and the goalposts seem to be changing every day. But you will be able to, even somebody who's been bankrupt, when you've been bankrupt, you've got an IVA, etc. It's a situation that you've been through. Yes, it's going to take time to heal. Sometimes it could take about six years, something like that, but you will be able to get one eventually. Hopefully, when you go to get it, the interest rates will be much lower and the offer's much better. What do you think about paying a set amount to energy companies each month and building up a buffer compared to only paying exact charges each month? That's a really interesting question. At the moment, we are all receiving £67 a month from the government, or £67 a month from the government. That's going to continue until March. So building up a buffer in your account is probably not a bad idea if you can afford to do so. However, there is also other things that you can do. If you're going to be a complete money tart, which is really a lovely thing to do, if you were to say, for instance, change your bank account, if you're not with First Direct and you've never been with First Direct and you're I don't know if it affects HSBC, but if you've never been a First Direct, if you were to switch banks to First Direct, you will get given 175 quid. You have to put £1,000 into the account, but you can take it out again. You get given £175, and you also can set up a little side savings account where you can put up to £250 a month in there and earn 7% on it. So if you look at that, and if you really want to take the time, I wouldn't put it with the energy company. I put it there and then use it and get the interest on it. But again, if you've got spare cash and you just want to make it easy, sure, build up a little bit of a buffer. You can always lessen the payment later. But bearing in mind that I know an awful lot of people whose buffers are about 500 quid, they're in 500 quid in credit. I know a lot of people. That's a lot of money for the energy companies to be sitting on. Again, it's a depend. What do you want to do? How busy do you want to be with your money? What is a credit score and what is a credit score used for? Okay, so a credit score is a figure that you are given after the three main credit reference agencies, which are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, have looked at you and how you manage money over time. So every time you take out a contract with a phone company, every time you get a mortgage, every time you open a bank account and take out a credit card, these credit agencies will be able to have visibility on how well you handle credit. Because if essentially a mobile phone contract is the credit agreement. If you pay your mobile phone and your mortgage every month and you aren't late on your credit cards and you pay your council tax, well, actually, I don't know if council tax counts, but you pay your bills on time, you will have a good credit rating. If you don't, you won't. And if you miss credit card payments altogether, that's like a really nice big black mark against you. So every single time you make a hard search, which is like you apply to a bank for a credit card or you for insurance or anything like that, they're going to see it. They check your credit rating. Go, well, what's this person like? What are they like at paying their bills? And they will actually adjust their prices on how good you are with money. So if you want to have a start on it, you want to also check your credit report also for fraud, because it's a good way of highlighting fraud as well. I had identity theft last year. I could have spotted it a lot earlier than I did if I'd looked at my credit report a bit more thoroughly. But another thing is to look at your credit report in brief, I would say once a month. So starting point for you is if you go to something called the Credit Club, which is part of Martin Lewis Money Saving Expert, you can sign up with them for free and just take a little look around, and they'll send you an updated email once a month to let you know how your credit score is doing. And that's the first point. There's another one that's a really pretty pretty website to look at, and that's ClearScore, which is the same company that owns Money Dashboard. But you don't have to pay. No paying. Okay, they'll want you to pay, don't. I hope that answers that question. Will I be able to get a mortgage? Disabled long-term spinal condition. If you're a neurophysicist earning thousands and thousands of pounds a year, sure. That's all going to depend on your financial situation. That's how it works. They will sit there and they will look at your affordability as to, you know, if you wanted to buy Buckingham Palace, you're going to have to be earning a lot of money. If you're wanting to buy a small bungalow in the depths of somewhere else, it probably will be a lot easier. But it really depends on your situation. And I don't think, it's going to depend on your situation. Whether they ask for a medical report, I don't know, and how that's going to affect it, I don't know, is the answer to that. And again, another area where the goalposts are changing. It's not very helpful, that, is it? But I'm sorry, that's all I can give, because that's the way that it is.
It's a good, honest answer. Sometimes, Fanny, when we can't give answers, you've just got to be upfront about these things, haven't you?
I mean, I tried to get some additional mortgage on a property that I owned. The mortgage, the existing mortgage on it was about 15%, and I wanted to increase the mortgage by 20 grand or something, and the property was worth like quite a lot of money, and it was like, because I hadn't got, and I'm self-employed, because I hadn't got 3 years accounts, and because Neil had changed from a sole trader to a limited company and he hadn't got 3 years accounts, they wouldn't give it to me. And this is Santander. So I sat with this chap on the phone 90 minutes. I was nearly in tears, right? I wasn't a money coach at this point. I was nearly in tears about how he was asking me all these questions. I had a lot of cash sitting there as well, but I wanted this extra money for some renovations and I wanted to put it on the mortgage. And they basically agreed to give me £10,000. I went online, went onto one of the Money Club, saw the credit cards available. I was given a £10,000 credit card with a balance on there for me to use, with a 0% interest rate for 36 months. That's 3 years, from the same bank who wouldn't give me the money on the mortgage. So wow, it's crazy.
Yes, bonkers.
And I think that changes.
Absolutely
on a
bonkers. Yes.
And it changes on a daily basis, the rules.
I think we may have lost Sarah.
Yes.
I think, she's coming backwards and forwards.
Yeah. And before we finish up, Fanny, there's just a couple of questions in the chat, if that's okay, because I'm conscious that we're running over. So we can just run through those quickly and then we'll close for the evening.
Let me see.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah. What are the tips for health insurance? Is it better to put in savings or pay the premium? Hang on. What are the tips for health insurance? Is it better to put it in savings or pay the premium? Health insurance has come down a lot recently. In the last few years, it's not as expensive as it used to be. There's a good argument for health insurance, bearing in mind the NHS waiting lists. If you can afford it, it would be something that I would certainly consider. Personally, I don't have private health insurance. I'm self-employed. And if it's going to be something, I mean, I probably should, right? If I was really a brilliant, totally perfect person, which I'm not, I would have health insurance. But it's usually been quite a lot of money, and along with life insurance, critical illness, and all that kind of stuff, it racks up, and it's something that's fallen off the end of the ladder. But it probably shouldn't. If you can afford it, go for it. Definitely, especially with the way the NHS is going. I've been getting credit score updates through Money Supermarket. Fantastic. You can do that. Money Supermarket will be linked to one of the credit reference agencies. I'm not sure which one. Do you recommend getting life insurance if it's limited to 20 years? I'm 53 years old. Why is it limited to 20 years? Can you get it for longer? What would it look like if it was for longer? How long has your mortgage got left to run? What are you insuring? Do you have children? How much do you need to have insured, etc., etc.? Again, lots of questions. How much is it worth? Do you think you're going to die before the age of 73? What would happen if you did? What would happen if you didn't? Use something called the decisive hand. All the options, weigh each one up, and then If you want to make the payment, make the payment. Personally, life insurance is a must for me because I have mortgage, I have children, etc. So it's a must for me. So I've been doing it for quite a long time. I also got a really good deal for it years ago, and again the deals have got squished over the critical illness, over what they cover. So again, check what it covers. But if it's life insurance, obviously you can die, then you get the money, which is good. So again, weigh it up. Credit Karma is free to check your credit score. That is correct. They are either Equifax or TransUnion. I can't remember. I know ClearScore is Experian. Yeah, those are the things. That's good. When do you need to straighten your credit score before you renew your mortgage? How long before the mortgage renewal? Well, I would say probably since the beginning of the last one. So if you probably renewed that 5 years ago or renegotiated it, they're going to be looking back. They're going to be looking back I would say 5 years. You want to have it as clean as you possibly can for as long as you possibly can, and keep it clean going forward. That's the thing. It's really, really important.
Thanks, Fanny. I think that was the kind of remaining questions. I think we've worked through all the ones above.
Ace.
Just conscious as well that it's sort of 10 to 7, so we've run over. So thank you so much for joining us. That was really, really helpful. Really useful content, and I'm sure it's given everybody listening just some really good tips and advice. Just to let everybody.
One more thing. If anybody wants to ask me questions directly, I have a Facebook group where we have quite good discussions. It's called Loving Me, Loving My Money. And If anybody fancies joining that, obviously it's free. They're more than welcome.
Yeah, and just to let everybody know that we will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow, which will be a link to this recording, and then we'll pop a couple of the resources that Fanny's mentioned on that as well.
And a link to the course if they want.
And a link, yeah, of course, we'll do a link to the course as well. So thank you so much. Thank you for your extra time as well. We really do appreciate it. Just to let everybody know, our next Stowe Talks will be on Wednesday, the 1st of March, where we will be looking at tech abuse. So we've got a university professor from Portsmouth joining us, and the tech lead from Refuge, the charity Refuge. So hopefully you can all make it to join us for that one as well. But once again, thank you, Fanny. Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting and quite terrifying topic at the same time. So, but thanks again, fantastic session, really appreciate it, and have a lovely evening, everybody. Goodbye.